He's got the last pick here in the second, first pick in the third. Interesting to see what he does here with going back-to-back picks. You can really take a safe pick and then reach for a guy that might not be available. Obviously, with Yoshi selecting back-to-back, he's not going to select again until the end of the fourth round. So I think he could potentially take a safe pick here and then maybe reach for a guy that he's afraid might not be available, a guy that he likes that is right around that area that might not be available in the end of the fourth. So I think that really opens up the door for Yoshi to take a safe guy and then reach for a guy that he wants. But ending the second round here, Yoshi decided to pair Akashi up with Mabuchi, shooting guard from Rakuzan. That's two guys from Rakuzan right now on Yoshi's team. Mabuchi, he's got the height, realistically could play the 2 or the 3. He's a good shooter though, so I think Akashi being able to dish it out to him, good pick. Like I said though, Yoshi's got the ability to maybe reach for a pick here in the third round with that back-to-back pick. Going to be interesting to see who he chooses, but before we get into that, let's look at the team so far. After just 2 rounds, I would say my top 3 teams would have to be Yoshi's, Jammies, and Ballin's. All 3 of those teams have good starts offensively and defensively, and I think the fits between those first 2 picks for those 3 teams put them above the rest of the crowd. I do think there's still a lot of draft left. I think the other 3 teams can still pull it out. I think realistically it's anyone's game. I just think the fit between Yoshi's, Jammies, and Ballin's team just give them a little bit of an edge compared to the other 3. Now Yoshi, having back-to-back picks, he had Mabuchi to end the second, opens up the third round with Nobuya Akichi, center from Rakuzan. Now Yoshi's already got 3 players from Rakuzan, maybe looking to build around a team he knows that's going to work. We obviously know Kashi works well with Nobuya and Mabuchi, so I don't think that's a bad start at all. Looking ahead to round 4 and 5, you're obviously going to be looking to get a power forward and a small forward. Going to be interesting to see who is available at the end of the 4th round when Yoshi's up next. Now next up is Jammy. After a promising first few rounds with Ayomine and Himuro, going to be interesting to see who Jammy decides to pair with those 2, and Jammy decided to go with Hayama, also from Rakuzan. Now, I was originally a little bit surprised by this pick. I think Hayama is another guy who's a little bit ball dominant and does a lot of his offense with the ball in his hand. You've already got a guy like that in Ayomine who needs the ball in his hand to score. Himuro obviously is a little bit better off the shot, but obviously a guy who needs the ball in his hand to work as well. However, after doing a little bit more looking at the cheat sheet in the draft board, Hayama was the last uncrowned king available. So Jammy might feeling a little bit obligated there to take the last uncrowned king available. Obviously, next guy is up just a little bit below that level. So Jammy might kind of feeling like he had to pick Hayama there. Not necessarily a bad pick, but at this point you've got 3 guys who need the ball in their hands to score. Obviously in round 4 and round 5, I think Jammy's going to be looking for those guys that are a little bit hands off, maybe guys that can work without the ball in their hands and really just kind of fill out the rest of the team. Now up with their 3rd pick here in the 3rd round, we had Zeman. I think Zeman had the most pressure going on his shoulders here into the 3rd round, considering he picked Murasakibara and Kuroko in the first 2 rounds. I think his team really at this point is kind of at risk of losing direction, not really sure where he's going with that team. So I think Zeman here, a lot of pressure, decided to go with Hyuga from Serene. Now I like this pick, Hyuga probably being the 3rd best shooting guard in the league, right up there with Mabuchi. Maybe a smart play by Zeman to pass on those shooters in the 2nd round and get Kuroko, knowing he can get a guy like Hyuga here in the 3rd. Maybe I should not have judged Zeman so soon. I do like that pick. I think Zeman had a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I think that's a good pick. I think that might actually be the best pick he could have made in this situation. 4th pick here in the 3rd round, we had Ballin. Ballin decided to go with Otsubo from Shutoku High. Now, Otsubo himself was a offensive-minded center before Midorima ever got there. We've got 2 players from Shutoku already on Ballin's team. 2nd round pick being Haizaki. I think this is a good team so far. I think really 4th and 5th round is going to be big for Ballin here. I think he's got a good start. I do think though a slip up or 2 in the 4th or 5th could cost him big. So I think he's got a good start. I think he can get there, be potentially one of the top 3 teams in the end, but I think just 1 or 2 bad picks could leave him at the bottom. Still looking for a primary ball handler. He's in the middle of the pack though, so he's going to have a relatively early pick there in the 4th. Gonna see who's available, gonna see who he decides to pick. Next up here in the 3rd round with the 5th pick, we had Shadow, who decided to take Okamura from Yosin. Good pick here, Okamura. Okamura is actually who I thought Ballin should have taken. I think a guy with Okamura's height, 2nd tallest guy in the league behind Miri Sakabara. He plays that power forward position recently. He's played center in the past, so I wouldn't be shocked if Shadow decided to move him back to the center position. I thought Okamura personally should have been taken by Ballin though. One man's mistake, though, is another man's pickup. Shadow, I'm sure, happy to get Okamura there. Being able to pair Okamura up with Hanamiya Inkise is big. You got your 1, your 3, and your 5. I think that's a good start. Shadow really just looking to fill in those gaps now. It's going to be interesting to see who's available in the 4th at the shooting guard position. I do think that is where Shadow is going to look next is for a shooter. Ending the 3rd round here, we have Kuroko play, who's got back-to-back picks. To end the 3rd round, he decided to take Imayoshi Shoichi, point guard from 2 Academy. Imayoshi, a good pick. He's good on both sides of the ball. He's known for his outside shooting. So I think pairing him up with guys like Kagami is important. Being able to really space the floor is good for a guy like Kagami who does most of his work inside the paint and inside that 3-point line. So having a guy who can really make defenders have to play him tightly on that 3-point line prevents defenders from sagging down and giving that help defense closer to the hoop where Kagami is wanting to take those one-on-one matchups. This team's actually starting to grow on me, folks. After 3 rounds, I think my favorite teams are actually Yoshi's, Kuroko Plays, and Jammies. Looking at those 3 teams, I just think all 3 teams have great starts. I wasn't a big fan of Kuroko Play going 2 big men in the first 2 rounds. Pairing them up with a point guard like Imayoshi is big. He's got the next pick here in the 4th round. Think he's got to go shooter here to further pair up with those 2 big men in Imayoshi. So I think Kuroko Play in a great spot. I think him, Jamie, and Yoshi have the best starts. Yoshi pretty much building Rakuzen light with Akashi, Mabuchi, Nabuya. Good start there for the first 3 rounds for them. Kuroko Play, once again, good start in the first 3 rounds for them. And I think Jamie also had a good start. Wasn't a big fan of that Hayama pick to start, but looking back at it, Hayama is a good defender on the defensive side of the ball. He's able to stay in front of his guy. He was able to stay in front of Kagami for a little bit there towards the end of the series, when Kagami was arguably faster than he was towards the beginning of the series. Still 3 rounds to go though, still a lot of mistakes to be made, still a lot of good draft choices to be made, so I still do think it's anyone's game. I don't think there is any clear-cut winner or someone that's pulled so far ahead that they're actually going to win straight from these first 3 picks. I do think it really is going to come down to round 4 and 5, and we're going to see who gets taken next right away. Starting off the 4th round, we have Kuroko Play with his 2nd pick of a back-to-back, who went Sugawa Tomoki from Seiho High. Sugawa, one of my favorite non-miracle level players, his defense I think is stifling. Pairing him up with Kagami and Imayoshi is a good choice. Then again, I would have liked to see a guy maybe in that shooting guard position who's a little more offensive minded. You've got good defenders in Kagami and Kiyoshi. Adding Sugawa's obviously going to bolster that perimeter defense even heavier, but I think I would have liked to have seen him focus a little bit more on offense and spreading out that offense a little bit more. 4th round selection, Shadow decided to take Wei Lu, small forward from Yosen High. Don't know how I feel about that pick. I understand that Shadow's really looking to fill out his roster, that 2 and that 4 spot, so I'm guessing Wei Lu's likely going to get moved to power forward, but I just think there's such a big question mark on what type of player he is. We know he's tall, but we don't know what type of skills he actually brings to the court. I think at this point you're really drafting Wei Lu for the potential, and I don't know if you choose Wei Lu in the 4th round. Wei Lu, who is a pick, like I said, that you choose just based on his potential. I think you get him in the 5th round if he's still available. I don't know if you decide to reach out and take him here in the 4th. Moving right along, though, we have Ballin with the 4th round pick, Takao Kazunari, point guard from Shutoku High. I'm not surprised at all that he decided to take Takao. Maybe a little bit of a reach. He still had Kasumatsu available, but with Takao's ability to pair up well and mesh with Midorima, I think that is an ability you can't pass up on. I think that's a smart choice by Ballin here. The offensive duo between those two, Takao isn't a bad point guard. His Hawkeye ability might actually be better than anything Kasumatsu can do. Personally, I do rank Kasumatsu ahead of Takao on the point guard scale, but when you have Midorima, I think the ability that Takao brings to the table with Midorima puts him better than Kasumatsu. So smart choice there by Ballin. Little bit of a spoiler alert here. I will say an award I will be awarding later on in the video is the best value pick. Takao was the runner up for that award. I didn't think he was quite the best pick, but he was runner up. So stay tuned for that award. A little bit of a spoiler alert. Takao was the runner up. Stay tuned to see who actually did win best value pick. A lot of pressure here for Zeman. Not sure still which direction he's going with his team. Not sure who he's realistically going to pick, but he decided to go with Kasumatsu, point guard from Kaijo High. Not a bad pick. He's got pretty much what he needs at this point. He did need a ball handler. I don't think you're going to have Hyuga or Kuroko be the primary ball handlers. So good pick there to get an actual person to bring the ball up every time. He's an elite point guard right there at the top. I would say right there on the level of Imayoshi. So being able to actually pick him up almost a full round after Imayoshi was picked up, big pick by Zeman there. We've got Jamie back up with their 4th round pick. Jamie, I'm thinking, is looking for a point guard or a center here. Jamie decided to go with Izuki Shun, point guard from Seirin High. Interesting choice. I understand he was looking for a point guard, but you just seen 2 point guards get taken back to back before that. So if I'm Jamie, I'm thinking that a point guard's probably going to be available in the 5th round. So if I'm Jamie, I think I would have went with the center there and taken a point guard in the 5th. He seen there was 2 point guards taken right before that, ladies and gentlemen. I think you need to be smarter there. Realize no one's probably going to take another point guard before you. Izuki would still probably have been available in the 4th round, considering Jamie's going to be picking up in just another 3 picks. However, I guess with that being said, since Jamie is going to be picking here again shortly, you just have Yoshi with back-to-back picks. So I think whoever Jamie might be eyeing for center is still going to be available. But let's see who Yoshi picks here. Back-to-back picks for Yoshi coming up. And I should not have been surprised with this choice here. Yoshi decided to go with Mayuzumi Chihiro, power forward from Rakuten. He now has 4 of the 5 Rakuten members. Mabuchi had already been taken. So Yoshi decides just to pick up that last available Rakuten member and fill out just as much of Rakuten as he could. Obviously, I think Mayuzumi could play the 4 or the 3, so I think Yoshi has pretty much the choice to choose any player he wants in the 5th round. Pretty much building a Rakuten team. He's going to get a Rakuten team with just a lone 5th member. So I think at this point, Yoshi's in a good spot. Looking at the other teams, though, so far, we've almost got our full lineup set. Just got 2 rounds left to finish. I would say Yoshi's team's looking promising. I'd say Jamie's team is still looking good, and I think Ballin's team is filling out real well so far. Looking ahead at the 5th round, though, I do think Ballin might be under a lot of pressure. I think this is the pick where he's going to make it or break it. I think a bad pick here in the 5th round could sway people's opinions, maybe change the amount of votes he could get. So I think this 5th round, I would say Ballin and I think Zeman are under the most pressure here going into the 5th round. Yoshi's second pick of their back-to-back picks. Yoshi decided to pick Yoshi, Susuyoshi Nari, small forward from 2 Academy. Not a bad pick here, ladies and gentlemen. If you actually look at Susa's wiki entry, it states that he is on par skill-wise with the ace of an average high school. Susa was able to somewhat control Iomean, so we know that Susa has a good temperament. With that wiki page saying that he's on par with the ace of an average high school, beautiful pick by Yoshi here to pick up Yoshi himself.